All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a truly fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying scenario that is silently taking over engineering teams literally everywhere. We're examining a phenomenon that completely shifts how we think about software development and human expertise in the age of artificial intelligence. We are talking about a silent pandemic spreading through codebases globally. Picture this. It's a super relatable scenario. You ping an engineer on your team about a massive pull request they just opened. We're talking tens of files, maybe over 1,000 lines of new code. You're doing your due diligence as a reviewer, right? So you start digging in. But after a few minutes, things just aren't quite clicking. So you ask one real, fundamental software architecture question. And this is the chilling answer you get back. I don't know, Claude wrote this. Seriously, it's a response that should make any engineering manager absolutely scream. Because fundamentally, the AI didn't open that PR, the engineer did. So, Section 1, the AI code pandemic. Let's look at this growing crisis. We are currently facing a situation where giant AI-generated pull requests are getting approved and merged completely unread. Why? Well, mostly because everyone is rushed and nobody actually understands the code right in front of them. And this points to a massive core problem. Asking the exact same AI agent to review the code it just wrote, it's completely useless. It's literally like a student grading their own exam. Of course they're going to pass. The AI has absolutely zero distance from its own work, so any flaws in its initial logic are just going to get rubber stamped right through the review phase. Moving on to Section 2, defining cognitive surrender. Now, Adi Osmani, he's a director of engineering at Google, perfectly diagnosed this exact phenomenon. We really need to draw a hard line here between two very different concepts. First, you've got cognitive offloading. This is healthy. It's a practice where you delegate a task to the AI, but you still completely own the final answer. You're the boss. But then on the flip side, we have cognitive surrender. And this is much darker territory. This is where the AI's output quietly just becomes your output. You don't feel like there is anything left to check, so you blindly accept it. For modern software engineers, the line between these two shifts under our feet almost every single day. And honestly, most of us are crossing it without even noticing. Which brings us to Section 3, driven off the cliff. Let's talk about losing control. The descent from a harmless brainstorming session into a total slippery slope happens fast. It really does. Step 1 starts innocently enough. You have a big task, you use Claude to brainstorm, it explores the code base, and boom, you get a solid plan. Awesome. Step 2, you execute a small task, you review the code, it looks good, you fix some minor issues, and you move on. But then Step 3 hits, a bigger, much more ambiguous task. Now, in the past, you'd break this down, but today, you're in a rush. The AI spits out a plan that sounds reasonable enough, so you jump straight to execution. You skip the part where you actually understand what's going on, and by Step 4, you've completely lost control. The author of our source material actually shared a super relatable failure here. They had a 2 to 3 hour Claude planning session that resulted in so many automated decisions, they totally lost the plot. The complexity compounded until they literally had no choice but to type /clear and start completely over. They basically let the AI drive them right off a cliff. So, why exactly do we lose that control? Well, it boils down to a perfect storm of 3 factors. First, starting with a vague idea of what you actually want to accomplish. Second, not understanding enough about the specific domain or code-based area you're working in. And third, rushing the execution. When your plan is vague and you just don't know enough to make the critical decisions yourself, you are inevitably going to surrender those choices to the AI. It takes a massive amount of conscious effort to resist that temptation. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, how civilizations lose skills. This is the entropy threat. There's this Greek quote highlighted in a book called The Book of Elon that says entropy is not on our side. You know, we tend to think of technological progress as a one-way street, right? Just this ever upward trajectory. But history actually proves that when a society stops actively practicing a complex skill, they literally forget how to do it. The knowledge just decays. History maps this collapse of civilizational knowledge perfectly. Look at ancient Egypt. They built these incredible pyramids. And then eventually, they just forgot how to build them. They even forgot how to read their own hieroglyphics. Move forward to Rome, masters of aqueducts and indoor plumbing, only for those skills to be totally lost to time. Even in our modern era, we went to the moon in 1969, but after the space shuttle retired, America essentially lost the ability to put humans in space for nearly a decade. And now, As we push toward 2026, we're seeing everyday skills vanish. I mean, almost nobody can navigate without GPS anymore, and increasingly, engineers are literally forgetting how to code without LLMs. We are actively giving up our skills.
All right, Section 5, Taking Back the Wheel. It's time to reclaim control. The good news? The author gives us a proven alternative to cognitive surrender, and it involves a very specific, highly disciplined workflow. They had a task to add event tracking through a tool called Segment in a repository they had never touched before. So they planned with Claude. Totally fine. But here is the critical intervention. Before committing a single thing, they ruthlessly reviewed every single file change directly in their IDE, line by line. For any line they didn't understand, they stopped and interrogated the AI. If the AI's answer didn't make sense, they changed the code and reviewed it again. By forcing this line-by-line IDE review, they ensured they actually understood the solution. That way, when senior engineers left comments on the PR, the author could jump on a call and confidently discuss the architecture, rather than just hiding behind Claude.
Beyond just personal discipline, you can also change up your tooling. Like we established earlier, you absolutely cannot have Claude review Claude. Instead, you can bring in external tools like CodeRabbit CLI. This acts as a completely different, unbiased agent. See, a self-reviewing AI is inherently biased and creates a ton of noise. But an external tool brings over 40 static analyzers and has zero emotional attachment to the original code. It's actually used by massive teams at places like NVIDIA and Indeed, specifically because it flags the real problems you might have just skimmed past. It makes sure you actually know what's in your code base, which keeps you firmly in the driver's seat.
Now, to survive this massive industry shift without becoming obsolete, engineering managers and developers have got to explicitly define their boundaries. You literally have to sit down and decide which mundane tasks you are perfectly fine with automating away. The author suggests it's totally okay to lose things like the physical manual typing of code, memorizing exact language syntax, or, remembering all the intricate quirks of CSS. These are repetitive tasks. They don't fundamentally define your architectural intelligence. But conversely, and you need to protect these fiercely, there are core competencies you absolutely cannot surrender. You must retain the ability to understand how complex software systems are built. You've got to be able to analyze architectural trade-offs. You still have to be able to actually read the code and verify that it makes logical sense. And you must be able to read and understand deep design plans. If you want to remain the driver of the AI rather than just a passenger waiting for a crash, these skills are completely non-negotiable.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a hard look at your own workflow today, this week, this month. Are you truly driving your AI tools and utilizing cognitive offloading? Or have you already slipped into cognitive surrender? Ask yourself honestly, are you just waiting for the day someone asks you a fundamental question about your own work that you simply cannot answer? It's time to take the wheel back. There's a whole world of tooling and disciplined workflows out there to help you do exactly that. But that first step, it's recognizing that you've let go.